Hey, it's Sophie Sargent from 96.5 Live Free Country. What's up, party people? Okay, so I recently had a sit-down interview with a local artist. I just love doing this because it's an opportunity for me to meet new people and for you to get to know some new talent in the country music world that maybe you didn't know existed. So this time I interviewed Andrew McManus. He is a singer-songwriter. He's from Massachusetts, but he plays all the time. You probably saw him play at least once or twice if you go to Tuscan a lot because he's there on the weekends. He's super great. I saw him open for Russell Dickerson and I said, yep, I need to talk to this guy immediately, pick his brain and kind of see what the future holds for him. So without further ado, let's welcome Andrew McManus to 96.5 Live Free Country. I saw you first when you were opening for Russell Dickerson. Yep. So I would love to talk about what that was like for you as a local artist to perform with somebody who is such a big name in country right now.
It never gets old. It just, every time, so the booking agent would reach out to me and I'd kind of established this connection with an agent in southern New Hampshire over the past few years, and they kind of knew me as one of the first country artists that they work with. And so they get these opportunities to help fill this opening act when a national act comes through and they might not have an opener. And they reached out to me actually in 2023 when Russell Dickerson was coming through town and said, hey, you got 3 days. Are you open to do this 30-minute spot? And I said, yep. And I kind of hung up and didn't ask any questions before they realized they had the wrong number. And turns out it went over really, really well. I kind of rush prepped a couple songs that I hadn't fully finished yet and got so much good feedback. Then they asked me again for Mitchell Tenpenny a month later. And it was just, again, like I'm just in awe that they wanted me on that stage. And it's one of those things that I didn't expect anything out of it. And you start getting people asking for your autograph. And I'm like, I don't have an autograph. You don't want my name next to Mitchell Tenpenny on your t-shirt. Like, this is like your experience. And everyone is just so welcoming at that place, to the point where then last year they asked me there for Clint Black, which my family, I didn't grow up with Clint Black as much as other people. And they were like, everyone was just in awe of that. And it was such a cool experience. He talked to me for like 20 minutes. And again, just absolutely absurd experience. And then this year they call me again for Russell Dickerson. And at this point, it's my fourth time on that stage. And to come out and hear even a couple tens or 100 people that had seen me before and come up to me again and just say, hey, I've seen you before. This is my first time seeing you. And having to like go down as if I'm Garth Brooks signing t-shirts and stuff. I'm like, man, they don't understand. I just worked a 9-to-5 selling HVAC equipment and now I'm signing t-shirts and stuff. It's weird to keep flipping back and forth between those lives, but it gives you that itch to say, hey, I want to drop it all and try to see what I can make of this, getting these opportunities. It's a really cool experience. Yeah,
it's kind of funny you mentioned drop it all, because that situation seems like you had to kind of drop everything when you got the call to be like, all right, I'm doing it. Does that kind of the norm when it comes to playing shows like that?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a full band too. I get a 5-piece band. We'll schedule dates out like 5 or 6 months in advance. And then all of a sudden when an opportunity like this comes up, I'm like, whatever I'm doing. I was actually traveling for work that same day, and I ended up flying in. I'm like, I hope I don't miss this flight. I landed and went right to the show, and it in that situation, yeah, it's something that obviously they're not prioritizing me as something that they're promoting 4 months in advance. I don't go on the bill with him, and nobody even knows who I am. The lights come on, and they think that Russell Dickerson's starting, and so I always have to kind of preface it to say, you guys don't know who I am, but I'm hoping to tell you a little bit of my story. And so it is cool. And when it comes to an opportunity like that, I'm more than happy to drop everything. But at the same time, you get questions when somebody comes up and like, you guys reached out for an interview, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I get questions, hey, when are you moving to Nashville? Where are you from? And all this kind of stuff. And I go, ooh, I've got way too much of a good backup plan here. I have a family, I have kids, I got a life build, I have a really, really stable job. I said it would take a real lot to drop all that to pursue music. That is a grind. And I'm doing the best I can to do it locally, and hard to ignore it though when you get on the same stage with somebody like Russell Dickerson.
Yeah, I can imagine. And to drop your life, like you mentioned a little bit before, with everything you have going on, kids, a family, a full-time job, What made you say, okay, I'm going to balance this with country music? Was it a passion of yours? Like, how did you get into this world?
I guess my story is a little bit unique where I developed the passion for music after I already had an engineering degree. And so I thought, I've got a full-time job. I really want to get into music. And I started playing out actually when I picked up a guitar in college, and I had an internship in my junior year. And I was subletting with a random group of people. Everyone kept to himself, stayed in their own rooms. And so every single night I'm in my room playing guitar, and I was in New Haven, Connecticut. And I'm like, you know what? I might as well go out and try to find like an open mic night, try to get in with some people. And I found this one guy who just kind of took me under his wing, and we were out playing 2 or 3 open mic nights a week.
Oh, there you go.
And that kind of got it started for me in songwriting. And then the next year I did a duo with another guy and did about a year just doing locations in Connecticut. And then I moved back up to where I'm from in Rowley, Mass, and got another job a year after college, and decided to form a whole band. And couple weeding through the weeds of Craigslist, and we put together a band that's been together for almost 10 years now. I think this is our 10th year, and we just got a couple new guys on board this year that's really gelling well. But it's been, just a 10-year grind, but already having that established career, family, location. It just has been a natural balance up until this point. And then a little bit tougher with the kids, obviously. Mm-hmm. They're a little tougher to miss the nighttime routines and things like that. So luckily it's come at a time though where I'm somewhat established with these booking agents, and I have somewhat of a reputation locally where I can pick and choose stuff that fits my schedule a little bit better and not be worried about just losing all the momentum, which is nice.
You know, when you have your band on stage, do you have a song or maybe multiple songs, whether it's your song or a cover, that you love to play every single time that you're on stage?
So I didn't grow up with country music. I got introduced to like rap and hip hop with all my cousins, and I was into that for a while. Then into high school, I was into like the pop punk emo type of stuff. We were into Simple Plan, Matchbox 20, Goo Goo Dolls. Then all of a sudden I had a high school like hard rock, Five Finger Death Punch. We're doing the garage band stuff. It's just all over the place.
Wow.
I hated country. It took until I was in college and I started going to some shows, and I saw Jason Aldean in college, and I'm like, this is rock with a better storyline that I relate to now. And so when I got into songwriting and I got into country, it was more that country, modern country rock. But to answer your question, we always go back, and half of our set list now is that 90s, 2000s pop punk type of stuff. And so one of the first songs we learned as a band that I've still played every single night is 3 a.m. Matchbox 20.
Nice.
And so we do that all the time, and we always throw in, I've been playing Mr. Brightside now, like acoustic, and just throwing in stuff like that. That's the stuff that still gets me excited to play every time. And that's where Russell Dickerson and even Mitchell Tenpenny, their kind of roots in the way that they play and the inspirations it sounds like in their music is very similar to mine. And last year when he came out and did the cover for Iris, I got chills listening to that, Mitchell, and then he recorded it, and I'm like, that's like the same kind of background that I had in music, what's influencing me now as I write country music. And so you'll hear in my originals that it's a lot of very kind of 90s, 2000s emo guitar licks that we put in there, because that's really what I enjoy playing.
Yeah, I really love the saying, never say never, because I've found that every time I say, I'm never going to do something or I don't like this, I somehow end up doing it in my lifetime. So I have said I'll never love country music. And then sure enough, I've loved country music. So I understand that. And then, we talked about your favorite songs to perform when it comes to performing in New England, because I know that you've kind of been all over the place. Obviously, I'm sure Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom has a special place in your heart with the show with Russell, but are there any other venues that you either love to visit or love to perform at in the Granite State or just in New England as a whole?
Yeah, they all have a different vibe. You have to kind of have a different set list for every group. Mm-hmm. So Tuscan Village, the stage that they have in Salem, New Hampshire, it's been the stepping stone as to how I have the connection with the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom in the first place. And I live within 10 miles of that stage, and so we're there almost every weekend. We've seen the thing be built, like that whole I don't know, it's like a Patriots Place almost.
Yeah,
now with
yeah.
how much is going on there. And we were there for the first little store that popped up, and they put the stage there, and I was playing acoustic, and you slowly start to see the crowd build. Where I was there playing acoustic, they wouldn't have country on a weeknight or a weekend because they weren't sure if it would be successful there. So they would have it on Thursday nights acoustic only, and I played that for a few years. And you slowly start to see more and more stores pop up, more and more of a crowd build, and then all of a sudden they start giving country acts a chance on weekends. Now every Friday night is a country act and full bands, and we have 2 or 3 shows there this summer, and every time now it's just like probably 300 people that were there the other night, and
Wow.
you got kids just dancing. Like it's the only stage that you have a dance floor going by the first song, and it's usually anywhere from toddlers up to kind of elementary school kids just dancing to every single song, no matter what you're playing. It's a really cool stage, and just a lot of history already there, very close to home. And then on the other side of things, I've always loved playing like down in Boston, Loretta's. It's just always such a fun vibe, like just party central. There's always a built-in crowd. It's a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
I'm really also trying to get into the original space, which is a whole new cold calling venues, trying to find an event space. Like, you don't have to pay me, we'll sell tickets, and I want to play you my original music and tell my own story type of thing. So that's kind of the next venture.
Yeah, and that must be something you probably almost have to consider at this point, because as you've been opening for people and getting your name out there throughout all of these different venues, I'm sure that you're growing some sort of following, whether that's on socials or just people kind of watching what you're doing and then being like, oh, he's releasing a new song soon. Like, I want to listen to that and support you and what you're doing. But if you could have sort of, I guess, snap your fingers and have like a dream collaboration with anybody, it doesn't even have to be in country music, and you were going to write a song together, what or who would you choose? I know this one's tough on the spot.
Yeah, so I don't have one of those like, hey, I grew up with some like classic country artist that I've always like admired and all this kind of stuff. Really, I've gained appreciation for some of the older, more classic sounding artists and things like that, but I never really drew any inspiration from them. The artists that I really kind of emulate now or really relate to are the ones that are kind of hot on the spot right now. Like Russell Dickerson, Mitchell Tenpenny, those two, and it just happened I got these crazy opportunities, but those two are who I guess I relate to the most, and even my writing and my influences. But yeah, it's tough to think. I'm still at the stage right now where I'm looking to like the local musicians and doing collaborations with I just played a show last night with Jake and Jenny, and I did my first ever collaboration with her last year with a song that I wrote and released and stuff like that. So I'm doing so much like crossover in reality right now, and really trying to network locally. I've never really thought about if I actually had an opportunity to pull somebody in, because
Well,
I'll have to think about that.
It's kind of manifesting if you do think about it.
Yeah.
But I actually like that you mentioned kind of local people and New England. Do you find that when you're writing your originals, like kind of going down that road, do you find that your New England sort of like lifestyle or influence goes into your songwriting, or is it kind of taking a different path?
I try to pull everything from either my life experience. I have a real tough time just writing out of thin air. I need to have something that's like in front of me that I see, or else I feel like it's not genuine. There's a couple of songs that, even though it's not anything that really relates to my life, I still had pulled it just from something that I saw or something that I experienced. One of the songs that I released was pulled from like 4 different stories, family members, and different stories that all kind of related, and I wrote a song about it kind of. And I played it the other night. Won't Look Back. It was a combination of like 3 different stories, family members who had kind of hit rock bottom and were pulled back up and are like having an amazing life right now after struggling with things like addiction and just getting caught up in the wrong place, wrong time type of thing. And so I always try to narrow into something that I've lived through. One of my latest releases, See Through, about the hometown that I live in, or that I lived in, Rowley. and getting somebody to see it through that perspective. I always try to play off of stuff that I know. But I found that recently trying to find ideas outside of that, because obviously if I'm not going to be solely writing about exactly what's going on in my life, but I want to be able to relate more broadly. And so we were watching like Love is Blind or Love at First Sight, all those Netflix shows. And I'm literally on a plane going to the Russell Dickerson show, and I'm trying to finish up writing a song, and I'm like, what about Love at First Flight? And that was the song that I played the other night, and I wrote it there, and it was nothing to do with my life, kind of picked off of some experiences that I was like going through in the moment. But when I write, the biggest thing I've realized recently is I can't be distracted. I get so used to throwing in a podcast and never having something not playing in my ears. Either I'm working or I'm listening to music or I'm listening to a podcast. All of a sudden I go for a walk the other day and I forget my headphones, and I come back and I'm like, I just wrote a whole song in my head. I just need to take the distraction away and pull from other things. And I feel like I get writer's block sometimes. And in reality, it's just I keep distracting myself. So it's been kind of a different experience recently trying to pull from other spots when it comes to writing.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about your songwriting process, but it sounds like you've kind of hinted at that, if there even is one at all. Like you just need to disconnect. Yeah,
it used to be I had a lot more time on my hands. It would be driving home from work. I don't have a commute anymore. I work from home.
Nice.
It would be just like taking a walk with the dog, and recently I'll throw in a song or a podcast or something like that. It's tough to disconnect between all the different things going on, whether work's really, really stressful, the kids running through the door and they couldn't care less what I'm writing about. All they care about is hearing me sing. If I pick up my guitar and I don't play Let It Go by Frozen,
Yep.
They are screaming in my face for the next 10 minutes. And so I can't even practice at home if they're in the house. It's one of those things. Trying to shift that mentality into songwriting has been really hard. I've tried to co-write a couple of times. I've historically done a lot better just writing by myself, getting 90% of an idea down, and then having somebody else finish it with me and kind of do a co-write, but bring the ideas and kind of have an idea, have somebody else kind of fill in the gaps where they can. But I definitely need to be more intentional about expanding it. I want to do more co-writes. I want to expand my network locally and get more writers involved, get more ideas. I'm not the best at coming up with a new melody. I realize I end up on the same chords on guitar. So having a different ear, a different kind of input style coming into it would definitely benefit my writing.
Yeah, but some of our favorite artists like Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs, like I feel like their music, Call Me Crazy, sounds the same. They've got this totally, and like we all eat it up every time. Yeah. So sometimes that's not the worst thing, I feel like. But speaking and staying on like that path of original stuff coming out, is there anything that we can look forward to coming up here soon, whether it's new music, new shows? Talk to me about that.
We play up at Eric's Church up in Maine in October. There's a couple of acoustic things I got going on. I don't have any plans of releasing new music. I've been teasing a few songs that I haven't recorded yet. The past couple of times that I've played my song Hear Me Now that I wrote for my kids, I'll have to say kids, even I wrote it when as my son was being born, and every time I play it, everyone at Hampton Beach would come up to me after and be like, why didn't you record that one? You recorded all the others that you played the first time you were here. That was the one you should record. I definitely want to get that kind of queued up, whether it's a couple more singles individually or trying to do an EP. It's one of those things that seems like the single game's the way to go these days, but it was nice. I put out an EP last year. That was the first kind of project that I had worked on with 4 songs. And then in the end, I ended up kind of releasing it as singles anyways. I think that's what I'm going to do moving forward. Just get a handful of songs, start playing them out, start getting them out with the band and really dial them in, and then slowly start to record and keep releasing a couple singles each year.
Yeah, I like it. And where can we find your music? Where can we find you on social media? Spill the tea.
Andrew McManus Music is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, but then the website was taken. So it's andrewmcmanusband.com, and that's where my most up-to-date schedule is. But I try to keep everything as up-to-date as I can on Facebook, Andrew McManus Music.
Congratulations on everything you're doing, and thank you so much for your time today,
Thank
Andrew.
you. I mean, there's nothing more helpful and amazing than the local country stations and stuff supporting local artists. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me in.